Can't watch live, busy with children. Now that we have a new Holy Father, can you guys settle the question on everyone's mind? Is pirating movies sinful?
That's funny. I'm wondering if this is a person I actually know in person, just because I had a person recently, it was like 2 or 3 months ago, they said, I watched one of Wagner's streams and he said pirating isn't a sin. What is your opinion on this? And I said, honestly, I'm just going to be the rigorist and say it is a
Yeah.
sin, mortal
Mhm.
sin, go to confession and do penance in sackcloth and ashes for at least a week. So I
Mhm.
actually, I'd like to hear your perspective, like a shortened, summarized version of why you think this wouldn't be a sin, if that actually is your position. Because
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think there's multiple ways in which one could go about this because there is like a just possession that one has of intellectual property.
okay,
But this just possession of intellectual property has been recognized. So, like when you see the old manuals mention like piracy is sin, what they're actually talking about is they're talking about somebody else has the publishing rights to something, or somebody has something in manuscript. I think the casuist has a question about this. And then I've seen this treated in like U.S. civil law books as well, from the older era when they actually did care about the principles of law.
mm-hmm.
Piracy would be taking somebody's just claim to be able to profit from their ideas and stealing this to yourself profit off of it. So, for example, somebody gives a speech, and you hear the speech, and let's say you like take it, and you're like, oh, this is really good, and you like dictate the entire speech, write it down, and you're like, oh wow, I'm like reading this. You might like go back and like let's say it's a really good sermon, and it's 1800, so you write it down, you like read it to your wife, she's like, oh, this is really good. That right there, that is not like in the classic sense the sin of piracy. The sin of piracy is if I, took that manuscript of the sermon and then I turned it into a little booklet and I started selling it and gaining money off of this. You're stealing the right that somebody has over the profitability of their property. So when it comes to like downloading things like PDFs, you're not actually, stealing from somebody. You're not actually taking some just use that somebody has of their ideas. If you were to upload it on Amazon and start selling it, you would actually be doing that because theft always implies some sort of removal from somebody else. So this person has something in their possession, and you're taking this good and you're diminishing it. So, like common goods, that is goods which can be shared without diminishing. Common goods cannot be stolen. Like you cannot somehow, if we like grow in the virtue of friendship, like that's not stealing. Like we can share
Mm-hmm.
this thing and it not diminish. So there's like from that perspective, oh, like can somebody have their own words as their own property? Can I go to a library and take a few pictures of some pages of a book and bring it home, or copy things down? Like historically, people did that all the time. This was never recognized as somehow sinful or stealing from somebody else. It was only considered sinful or stealing if you were going to publish it and steal the profits that somebody may make from the labor of their hands. So then there's the question, because a lot of people will be like, oh, okay, I don't know what I think about that, but like I can see where you're coming from, but it's illegal and you can't break the law. So there would be two things I would say to this. One, when it comes to laws, if there's a certain principle to where if you have a law and the law is not enforced, this law is not binding. An unenforced law is not promulgated properly, and therefore, it's not a law at all. So I
Mm-hmm.
go at it from that direction. But I would also go at it the direction of laws which are purely penal. I don't know if you've ever read into that controversy. It
Mm-hmm.
seems to me as well that piracy laws are also purely penal laws, which would not somehow bind under guilt. They would only bind under the payment of the penalty when one is prosecuted for it. So yeah, I guess that would be like my quick answer. I'm not the premier defender of piracy. My friend River Run, he's done a lot more on this than I have. But yeah, that's the general 2 cents about piracy.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. I guess my only question when it comes to it, but you kind of partially at least gave me something to think about. But I guess the only question I would have would be, is if one is taking something like, say, a movie from the internet
Mm-hmm.
that one could say normally just buy, is that not in a way taking something that's not yours that is for sale and depriving that creator of some type of just recompense for his creation? Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. But I think it is different, and this is something that like the digital age has pushed on us. What we have now is like beforehand, if you wanted to like get a movie or get a book, like you would need to purchase a DVD, or you would need to purchase a physical copy of a book. Like an example that I like to bring forward is, let's say you have a Netflix subscription and your friend is
Mm.
coming to visit you. Your friend does not have that Netflix subscription. So if you both sit on the couch and watch a TV show on Netflix, your friend has not purchased that Netflix subscription.
Mhm.
You have. So one could like similarly make the argument that, oh, your friend should sign up for Netflix if he wants to watch your Netflix movie with you. And I would say the difference is like merely incidental if you're going from maybe I have a book that I bought and I let a friend borrow it, or I read it off to somebody, or like something like that. What is the difference between me handing you a book for you to read it and then me having a PDF and then sharing that PDF with you? I don't think that there's necessarily something of a just recompense when it comes to the sharing of the information which one has in his possession.
Yeah, that's a fair argument because I liked your first initial one on if one was to take photos of pages of a book. It's like, okay,
Mm.
that actually is fair because then one could, by analogy, say when it comes to a movie, one can take clips from movies, upload them onto YouTube, etc. Is that considered piracy because they don't actually own the rights to the movie itself? Things like that. YouTube would definitely like to say that when it comes to soundtrack stuff. So
Yeah.
thank you, Draconian YouTube. But yeah, something I'll have to think about. It's definitely an interesting
Yeah,
argument.
I think there's another aspect to this that a lot of people, because a lot of people what they'll go at, and this is especially in academic publishing, which this is like a pure farce for
Hmm.
anybody who has the least bit of familiarity with academic publishing. Is let's say I have a book and I publish it with an academic press, and this is like some very niche book, so it's on like Brill or something, and it's $200.
Yeah.
The reason they make it $200 is because they don't expect people to buy it. They
Hmm.
expect libraries to buy it. And libraries, they can spend $200, $300 for a random book. Individuals can't spend $200, $300 for an individual book. And the authors of those books for each purchase really get like pennies on the copy. So honestly, if I like cash apped an author $2 and then stole the PDF, that author would actually be recompensed much more. And I think it's the sort of old form of publishing that assumed that there weren't libraries. Well, not there weren't libraries. That assumed that there wasn't digital access. It's really under that old form of the communication of knowledge that the current laws and current thinking among a lot of older academics run under. That's how they think about, like, oh, if I want to be reputable and I want to publish a book or publish a journal article, I'm going to need to publish through this press or that press. And
Hmm.
it's really a farce for that press to stamp notoriety and in return get a lot of money from selling the books. The author is not the one who's profiting from this. And really, a way around the whole broken system is just to go and download the PDF.
Yeah, that's fair. As someone aptly put in the comments, they said, if it was to be something that is sinful, we're both cooked because of our use of Skyrim music in our videos. So I guess it's fair.
Yeah, I think that at least in my mind, there hasn't been a reconsideration of this question from Catholic principles by any relevant authority. A lot of people will bring up old piracy quotes, but it's talking about something completely different.
Sure.
And I think from the historical praxis of the church, like the example I bring forward is if you went up to St. Thomas and you said, "Hey, St. Thomas, like I can go on this thing called a computer and I can actually like send to people in far off lands. I can send them all of your books so they can read, even while they're surrounded by Saracens. They're surrounded by all of this danger, hiding from their parents who are infidels. You know, they can read your books and they can communicate this to the people they know, so they are converted to the Catholic faith." And these people, like, it would take them months' salary in order to purchase this. You'd be like, "Oh, awesome! Like, I'm so glad that this is a thing." And then you're like, "But actually, they're going to go to hell if they do this."
Yeah.
And I think St. Thomas, he wouldn't be able to even conceive of an idea like the type of intellectual property that some people put forward about the sharing of PDFs. That would be something that would just be inconceivable to him, that you have this ready ability to communicate knowledge in a way that does not deprive other people of property. So you're not like stealing their book or whatever. And that we have this like qualm of conscience about using it on the basis of no extrinsic authority. Like if the church stepped in and said, "Hey, you can't do that," I would be like, "Well, you know, the church said so, so I guess I'm increasing my book budget every month." But until then, I think I have a solidly formed conscience about this issue.
Yeah. No, it's fair. It's a fair argument.